Today is Ask Bill. Um, this is your opportunity to share with me what challenges that you're currently experiencing. I know top of mind for all of us right now is certainly interest rates. Certainly the sudden rise in automobile pricing, the fact that if a customer is coming in with a 10-year-old, 7-year-old, 5-year-old, even a 4-year-old automobile, right? That is at old pricing. And there was a significant difference just 4 years ago. And I just attended the auto show yesterday. Had a great time. You're going to see a lot of this in my social feed, lots of pictures and lots of B-roll, and saw two students from a long time ago that are now graduates of the Automotive Business School of Canada. It's exciting to talk to them and fun to walk around and just bump into some old faces as well. And what everybody is saying, we're not alone, is the surprise. And we're right back to, what is old is new again. If you are familiar with that adage, it really does ring true right now in the automobile industry for us, because these sticker shock prices that a lot of our consumers are facing is nothing new. For those of you that have been in the business for 20 years and more, and I don't mean to date all of us, and those of you that have not been in the business for 2 decades, not to worry. But the point I want to draw to your attention is that history has a tendency to repeat itself. And so we've been here before. We've been here at high interest rates. We've been here at a sudden rise in inflation of the price of automobiles that can be driven by the exchange rate, bringing vehicles in from other countries. And of course, that's what Canada does. We produce some cars here, but they typically go abroad. And of course, we import them back in again. Regardless, the sticker shock is a real thing. And it doesn't make your life any easier. And I know that. So let's talk about how we can overcome some of those objections when a consumer comes in with the idea that for the same price and slightly less, I could get into a new vehicle. So let me address something that's really crucial. And I know you're doing this, but we really need to address the fact that if you haven't completed the activities that lead to a sale, so if we haven't gone through well, first of all, you haven't made a dynamite first impression, you got your work cut out for you, and you're going to have to catch up on that. But if you haven't completed an interview, if you haven't done the counsel and qualifying, if you don't know the vehicle they'd like to go to, if you didn't see the vehicle that they drove in, then you need to find out what color that vehicle is. And in fact, if they might be interested in selling it to us. And of course, for us to fill the used car inventory in the used car lot, this is a magnificent place for us to start. Even if that client does not want to buy our product, we certainly want an opportunity to buy their vehicle so that we don't have to pay auction fees. And we've got some idea how it's been looked after, and we get to see it in its raw form, which again is some idea of how it's been cared for. I'm sure there's lots of vehicles that we don't want to buy. Those are all the ones that want to sell it to us because they haven't looked after it. If you haven't completed that interview, and specifically addressing the trade-in, if they have a trade-in, and most pointedly asking them, what is the monthly payment on that trade-in? And if it's a 10-year-old vehicle, don't be surprised that they don't have a monthly payment on it anymore. We must ask, what was the monthly payment? And the whole purpose of this is to find out what the sweet spot is. Where do they think their monthly payments are going to come in at? And until we get that sweet spot, it's going to be very difficult for us to essentially sell the customer. Now, I say essentially because it's super easy for us to take them out and show them all the product that we have on the lot and put them behind the steering wheel and take them out on the roadway and drive it. But if it is going to be unaffordable, then what's the point of spending 3 hours convincing them that our new Jeep, F-150, Silverado, and for that matter, Power Sport, Snowmobile, ATV, UTV, that they would really like to have? That's the desirability factor. One of the 3 motivations that help them make this purchase if they don't necessarily have that affordability factor built in to meet the desirability motivation, then you're spinning your wheels and wasting time. And take this with a grain of salt, but I would really encourage you to get onto a vehicle that they can afford or cut bait. Here's the reality of it, that consumers don't know what we pay for automobiles. I don't believe they believe us when we tell them that the offer that they've given us is below cost. And so therefore, that's a mute discussion. There's no point even talking about it, because if they don't believe us and they're not going to follow along with us, then what's the point of following up with it? So we really got to pick our battles, unquestionably. And with respect to interest rates, I think the greatest concern, aside from the biweekly and turning it to be their monthly commitment, aside from that, the customer's concern is having to pay interest. I mean, we're experiencing this as owners and managers, and I'm sure you're hearing it as salespeople as well. The cost of doing business has escalated for us since we've evolved out of and transcended the pandemic protocol and the inventory shortage. That with the sudden rise of interest rates and floor plan, it's not as easy to make money as we did before. And of course, going back to pre-19, before the inventory shortage, it's not as easy for us to hang on to the product on the lot and not be so concerned about it selling. So this interest rate factor is a concern for clients. But when you follow the activities that lead to the sale, when you know that the client has a monthly payment, a biweekly that will fit into the new vehicle option, then you can confidently walk out on the lot and show them that vehicle. However, this is how, correct me if I'm wrong, this is how customers think. For the same price or slightly less, ideally less, I would consider buying a new vehicle. And this is what we've talked about before. And this is how you present your attractive character. This is the what's in it for me, right? This is the customer. What's in it for me is I will commit to your monthly payment for the same price or slightly less. So our job as salespeople, because this is what it says on your card, sales consultant, is to consult them on the best way to buy an automobile, which is to put money down. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's closing a negotiation. At this point in time, once we have a soft commitment on the biweekly that they're currently paying, will that be the same going forward on the new vehicle? You may have to suggest that they put some money down in order to get that same payment. If you find out that they would like to be at a lower monthly payment, then we need to suggest a lesser model vehicle or a pre-owned. There's no magic to it. Math is science. Okay, if they're coming out of a $40,000 and $50,000 automobile and looking at a $70,000 and $90,000 automobile that is 4 years newer with no mileage on it, or it's 4 years newer with a little bit of mileage on it, then it stands to reason, does it not? It stands to reason that the monthly payment is going to go up. You may have to draw an analogy for your client to something that they're familiar with. Remember, a good teacher links an unknown with a known. So what you can do to build your value bridge when the monthly payment is the greatest concern, and they won't even consider looking at a new vehicle, is that we are no different than the housing market. And some customers may have gone through this scenario. Maybe they've realized that when they sold their house and capitalized very, very well on it, moving over to a new home that they're going to, they probably spent all the money that they capitalized on moving over because of inflation. And the very same thing has happened to us in the automobile. Look at how many moving parts go into building the automobile. Not to mention, if any client is coming out of a one-year-old vehicle going to the next new vehicle. Now, I'm at the auto show looking at the brand new 2024 new to be released or the pre-production models that are down there on the showroom floor, and it says all over the floor, this is a pre-production model, the doors are locked, you can't get in it, but you can see what it looks like. It doesn't have the analog gauges anymore. It doesn't have the traditional toggle switches on the dash anymore. It doesn't even have the same kind of door handles. And that's the part that I could see. And I did the product training for so many of these companies eons ago. And I've seen the evolution of the technology. And that's what you do in your walk around, your selective walk around presentation. You need to land on the right vehicle at the council and qualifying part. If you don't do the interview correctly from the very beginning, you're setting yourself up for disaster in the end. Does that make sense? I really hope that makes sense. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not poking you. I'm not prodding you. I'm just putting into reality. Consumers come in thinking for the same price or slightly less, I'll take one. As though they're doing us a great big favor and helping us out of our problem of having inventory on the ground. I don't really think inventory on the ground is a problem. If you went through the inventory shortage, I think you'd agree with me. Having inventory on the ground is not a problem. Remember those days when you had to tell a customer, you may wait a year, 2 years. You may wait more than 2 years. I don't know if any of you said 3 or 4 years, but I think I just chose you may have to wait more than 2 years. And a lot of them did it, which is fantastic, which is proof in the pudding that if we don't have the perfect vehicle for them, we can show a representative model. Yesterday, I was speaking in a one-on-one coaching session with one of my clients in the United States, and great guy, top performer in his store. It's a Toyota store, doing really, really well. And he calls me on an SOS. Bill, I need an hour of your time. I'm like, no problem at all. Here's the link to the calendar. Book that coaching call and book 2 sessions. There you go. Because coaching sessions go in 30-minute increments. I don't want to take you away from your entire day. You need that time on the floor to sell. And don't forget to do that. I can't believe, I will share this much with you right now. I can't believe how few of you are booking one-on-one sessions. And if you're waiting for that to happen going into the second quarter of this year, then it's going to pass you over. Remember, it doesn't matter what the economy does. When the second quarter of the year rolls around, from the worst economy, from when I started at the worst recession since the Great Depression, when the second quarter of the year rolled around, sales were happening. Right now is the time for you to be planting those seeds. Anyhow, going back to my example, speaking with Chandler yesterday, a member of the program right here in the manifesto, he said, my challenge is with these aggressive buyers. I said, okay, fantastic. Now, how do you know that you're an aggressive buyer? That takes you back to step number 1 of the dynamic buyer odyssey, doesn't it? And look at those 4 types of buyers, and you determine, based on the cadence in which they speak, what 50% of the population is. And then you determine whether they're smiling and they're approachable or they're very sullen and serious. If they're sullen and serious, they're to the left of the y-axis. If they're approachable, they're smiley and they're very talkative, or they just want to listen. They look right at you and they just listen. Or they're looking at the automobile and they just listen. They're just listening. I mean, the people watching yesterday was fantastic going through the show. I saw all 4 of those buyer behaviors absolutely perfectly. Here's the thing. At the interview, if you haven't determined the behavior that you have to mirror and match their behavior, then you're not capitalizing on your likable character. However, you could get through that by finding out what the payment is on the car that they're currently driving, to be able to match it up with the vehicle that they would like to go to. Now, if you don't have the perfect vehicle for them, for instance, if the one that you were going to show is a top of the line trim model, and the reality is this individual would like to buy a base model, well, the wheelbase is the same, the silhouette is the same, the seats and the interior volume and space is the same, the suspension for the most part is going to ride the same. Engine configurations may be different, transmission configurations may be different, but for the most part, you can capitalize on the opportunity to present the vehicle. You may not want to demonstrate it, and the client may not agree to demonstrate it if they can't drive the exact one that they would like to have, but you can write an order, and we won't if we don't ask. As it relates to interest rates and payments, until we take them through the activities that lead to the sale, walk them out and show the vehicle, even a representative model, and then volunteer to have them drive that representative model, even though it isn't the perfect one for them. Until we've completed presentation demonstration, you haven't moved the client from a logical state of mind, how much is it, how much is it, how much is it, to an emotional state of mind. Just gotta have it. I'm making reference to the wrong side of my chest where my heart is, only because my microphone, I don't want to keep tapping the microphone. I've done it a couple of times there. The reality is the client wants you to do this. The client, when they come in, remember, they've transcended that process, right? They've thought about it, talked about it, researched the marketplace. This is where Google tells us they do it for 6 months. They've seen it in a non-confrontational setting. If any of your well, I know all of you follow me on social, but if you've been reading some of the stuff that I post, especially last weekend with the introduction to the Canadian International Auto Show that happens in Toronto right now, then you would know that one of my posts was, don't try and sell me anything. I love the auto show. I love going. Let me have a look. And if you see something that really catches my attention, and a number of you did this last night. Thank you very much for those that are watching afterwards or seeing the shorts or the YouTube broadcast of this that is cut up. And I will edit this part out of it for all of us here that are clients of the Auto Dealership Academy. Only you get the whole video, where everybody else gets snippets of it. And I leverage that in other areas to create that hook to bring people in. For those that did come up to me and didn't try to sell me something, one guy last night, we were standing beside a very similar truck to what I currently drive now. And I asked him, when is the new 8-liter coming along? And he said, you know what? You're the second person to ask me about that. He said, would you like to sit inside and feel the massage seat? And I said, no, absolutely not, because I am this close to it. I said, no, I know exactly what it is and what I want, and I really like it. I'm so impressed with it. But it was nice that there wasn't the push, like hop in, try it, see what you think. Would you like to know how much it is? And we currently have 0.99% interest rate on it, all of which is commission breath. Now on the lot, remember, the auto show is a non-confrontational setting. This is where I just want to go and see it without the obligation to say, no, I don't want to buy it. I just want to see it. And so many of your customers right now are doing this, and the phone will start ringing, the email bell will start chiming. And as we move forward to the nicer weather that's happening in March, right around the corner, my goodness, what's today going to be? Single digit plus single digits for us in the Northern Hemisphere. I think Windsor, Detroit are going to see double digits, which is absolutely amazing for this time of the year, end of February. And I wouldn't even say the 22nd of February is the end of February. But once the customers transcended that process, getting over that hurdle of the interest rate, getting over the hurdle of an increase in the biweekly gets a whole lot easier, right? It's these activities that lead to the sale. And I know you know this stuff, but are you doing it? Is it happening on a regular basis? Because if you don't, then going to the appraisal and then presenting the difference figure to our client to purchase the automobile, well, it may fall on deaf ears. Not deaf ears from the perspective of they have no interest in buying, but from the perspective that you aren't going to get a sale because they're going to say, I got to think about it. I got to talk to my dad. I got to talk to my spouse. I've got to talk to my neighbor and coworker and whoever is the automotive authority, that is this a good idea, even though I'm having to pay an interest rate in order to replace the vehicle I've got. So the next part of the equation is, while you're doing your activities to the sale, are you identifying the pain points? So there are 3 ways the customers make this decision. Number 1 is the desire. I believe the manufacturer has done all the work in that capacity. And of course, your dealer, your brand, in other words, has done that heavy lifting for you. They've created the desire, the want to have an F-150, a Ram, a Renegade, pardon me, a Wrangler, Bronco, a side-by-side, an Assault, a Ranger, a Sportsman. The bottom line is, in order for the client to really understand that this is a great decision, the desire has already been accomplished. We don't need to create any more desire. And this is what I see average ordinary salespeople do, that they're pushing the deal on the client as opposed to pulling the client towards them. That if you don't take advantage of this deal right now, and here's the really interesting thing, February is a magnificent time to buy an automobile. This is how you can leverage scarcity and urgency, and especially address that age-old question right now, that concern of interest rates. Customers don't see any urgency to act right now when the interest rate is 4, 6, 8, 10, 12%. There is no urgency to act because of the interest rate. And the interest rate almost becomes principal for them, doesn't it? So How you can turn that around is identifying the fear of losing out on the automobile that they would like to have. How you can leverage the fear of the interest rates go one direction after Valentine's Day. They simply go up unless we have a lot of inventory on the ground and the manufacturer is motivated to lower the interest rate, to put cash on the hood, to create incentives to get vehicles to sell. If you hint at that with your client, that may be the case in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter of this year, then you just exhausted any kind of urgency that did possibly exist. And that urgency was being driven by desire. Now, the most effective way for you to convince this client to move over with you is to leverage the pain. What is the pain point that they're experiencing? Why do they want to make this decision right now? Is their vehicle making a noise? And unfortunately, because we have not had a traditional Northern Hemisphere winter, I don't believe that we're getting that. I believe that everybody's battery is probably starting okay. What about tires and wheels and sealant? Their tires are probably not losing air, especially if they're 5, 6, 7 years old, especially if they're going on 10 years old as winter tires because they only get driven half of the time of the year or less. They're not going down as frequently, and the tire pressure monitor isn't alerting them to the fact, or just that the tire pressure monitor fails altogether. They don't know whether they have a low tire pressure or not because cold weather, dense cold weather, will set off these warning bells for customers. It'll make it difficult for the vehicle to start. The road doesn't even get beat up. And of course, without snow on the ground, and they're driving like it's still summertime and smashing into each other. I was speaking with one of you that was driving on the highway at the time when we were doing our coaching session, which I don't encourage you to do. Let's try to do one thing at a time so that you can sit down and make notes and we can go through that very conscientiously. But they were saying, the snow, this was last week, the snow is really coming down and I've already passed 3 accidents. And I said, you know what, I don't want to sound I don't want to sound morbid about this, but it really is fantastic for us when we get the traditional Canadian, Northern Hemisphere, Northern US states winter, right? And we're not getting that. With El Nino, it's settled all of that down. So when you are trying to overcome payments that have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled because of interest rates and the rise of inflation, increasing the average selling price of our automobiles, what you need to do is find out what they plan to budget for. What is coming out of their pocket right now, out of that trade-in? I'm making this gesture down here to my pants, my slacks, that are they ready to make this decision? Do they really want to go forward with that vehicle? Now, the second part of the equation, I'm certain one of you would like to debate with me on, well, Bill, it's all that is all well and good, and unquestionably those suggestions will work, and that I get it, and I'm role playing with you here. But I want to paint the worst case scenario, right? So I get it, that'll work, but at the end of the day, this is what's happening, Bill. They just can't afford the automobile. Okay, what's the solution? If they need an automobile to get to work, what's the solution? If they go and they leave your dealership and the brand that they would like to have and the manufacturer, the model and the trim level that they have done 6 months of research according to Google and their Z-Mod example, and 6 months is the average. So there's lots of them shopping longer than that and pulling that average up. And there's lots of them that can do it very quickly and pulling that average down. The average is the best of the worst and the worst of the best. What are they going to do? When we let them go based on the fact that they can't afford to purchase it, they could come back. And of course, if you can get them as a B back, you've got a 73% chance of closing them, which is fantastic. But you've lost all control as soon as they leave. And why do we want to do that? I don't believe that we do. Now, you have to serve up a price if it's a telephone call or if it is an email. But let's think about what we're going to say. Start the brain before engaging the mouth. Let's think about how we're going to help this client make the decision. And again, I'm making the assumption, only because the auto show is top of mind with me, that this client that you're asking about the interest rate is in the showroom. They may be on the phone. They could be emailing in, what's your best deal? What are the interest rates? What is the terms? How much is it? And so on like that. We just need to make sure that we're addressing those buyer motivations and identifying that pain point, which is terrific. I hope I addressed your question, Mark. Did I? You can give me a thumbs up or a yes, or that works. I'm just going to have a look at payments are way too high. I will look at less expensive brands. Okay, so the great thing about going to the auto show, and if you haven't been to the auto show, you should definitely be planning to do so today, tomorrow, Saturday, or Sunday, because this gives you an opportunity to see the competitors. What is a less expensive brand? Hyundai is not a less expensive brand. Kia is not a less expensive brand. We need to compare apples to apples. If the client is looking at a Rubicon Gladiator or looking at a Platinum F-150, 250, 350, or they're looking at a premium trim level Ranger or Highlifter or our Boost line of snowmobiles, and they decide that they need to go and look at a less expensive model because the payments are way too much, well, going from a Rubicon Gladiator to a Kia Seltos will contradict my statement that I just made seconds ago that Kia and Hyundai are not less expensive brands anymore. We got to compare apples to apples. If they will go and look at a Seltos, what do we have that is comparable in terms of the Seltos? So the easiest question that we can ask our clients is, what brand are you considering in your shopping that you're comparing me to? And to my knowledge, if you sell Jeep and they want a Wrangler, there isn't a competitive model other than a Bronco, other than a Hummer. And those vehicles, you should go to the auto show and have a look at what the price of them are. There isn't a less expensive option. However, the less expensive option does always exist in the pre-owned marketplace. So this is where we can help them make the decision, maintain the excitement, the energy level, the enthusiasm, the emotions running high, and the desirability factor by saying to them, hey, if you would consider a vehicle with a little bit of mileage to save yourself a ton of money, that may be the best way for us to go. Now, when I say a ton of money, I'm not going back to 2018 and previous years on the difference between new and used. Until the daily rental marketplace builds itself back up again to the point where they're flipping their vehicles on a regular basis, and we have the freedom and flexibility of the auction to pay what we want at the auction, at the block, until we get back to that, I'm going to call it excessive inventory levels, we're not going to be able to have massive discounts. And I didn't suggest massive discounts like 40 and 50% off of new vehicle price. I'm just saying to save yourself a ton of money. And a ton of money could be if you can't discount your vehicle more than, let's go worst case scenario. If you can't discount your vehicle more than $5,000, and I don't think many of you want to do that, but I am hearing stories about some dealers selling at cost. And so, yes, the discount is in excess of that $5,000. But if you can't discount your vehicle $5,000, then if you can't discount your vehicle more than $2,000 or $3,000, then wandering them over to a 1-year-old with 20, 40, 60,000 kilometers on it that sells for $10, $20, $25,000 less than the new, being 1 year, 2 year, 3 years old. You could even go into a 4-year-old automobile with 60,000 kilometers that fits their budget. And that, hey, let's not kid ourselves. If this client is saying, I'm going to a less expensive brand to find the payments that are affordable, they are not going to call you and say, I did it. I bought a 3-year-old vehicle with 80,000 kilometers on it for half the price that you wanted for your brand new one. We need to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. And by offering that less expensive Model, well, first of all, I would go in a stair step process. I would go with the model down, then I go to the pardon me, trim level down. Sorry about that. I would go to the trim level down, then I'd go to a model down. Then I would go to a pre-owned automobile. And just as we saw throughout the inventory shortage, which, yes, the demand was higher than the supply, so people will wait. But the proof in the pudding is, if you present your attractive character and you are so believable and you have identified what it is that they would really like to have, they will wait. You know that they will wait because of the know, like, and trust badge of honor. I hope I answered your question there, Mark. We really need to know what that less expensive brand is. And in my opinion, that less expensive brand is Facebook Marketplace. So be aware of your products. You should be doing a search all the time. Friday night at 9 o'clock when you're trying to fall asleep, I'm having fantastic traction with a lot of you looking at my posts by experimenting with other times other than the business day. And that's later on in the evening. And maybe you're seeing that. Saturdays are a good time for, I'm seeing the impressions that you're watching and others are. So while you are doing that anyhow, check Marketplace. Go to AutoTrader Value Finder and plug in your brands, plug in your used vehicles, and just see how competitive they are in the marketplace. This is what shoppers are looking at. This is how they make the decision. And just because they've landed on the vehicle in the showroom, or just because they walked in and saw the one out front, said, that's the vehicle I'd really like to own, I believe that is because we put our nicest stuff in the showroom. We put our nicest stuff right outside, out front, as the lead magnet, as the hook to pull them off the street. Of course, they'd like to own it, but that may not be the vehicle that they're going to buy. Does that make sense? I really hope that resonates with you. I saw another comment there. I want the same payment as I had before. I think I addressed that earlier. Easiest way to accomplish that, it's math. And math is science. So in order for you to get the same payment that you had before, what do? Money down, extend the term, lease versus finance. And you may say, Bill, my leasing isn't all that good. The residual rate is, and that came up yesterday with Chandler. He said, some of our models, Tundra lease is amazing. Residual is fantastic. Corolla, Camry, lease doesn't necessarily work out for them. Why would anybody turn a lease away when they have 3 great options, even if the lease is more expensive, when they have 3 great options that they will not get going with a finance? The 3 great options being drop the keys and walk away from it, assuming that you're offering a closed-end lease. You could do this with an open-end lease as well. Many brokered leases and outside leasing sources, including in-house leasing sources, treat open-end lease where the loose agreement is that the customer has to take advantage of it and buy it at the end. They still treat it as a closed-end lease when the client calls up and does so long before maturity and says, I want out of this thing, get me another one. And so it is effectively the exact same thing as a closed-end lease. The closed-end lease just tells them on this particular date, you need to make a decision, and that's drop the keys off and walk away, or extend it for a brief period of time until your vehicle arrives or you get another vehicle. But the bottom line is we need to present choices to the client so they can see and make a choice in the customer focus approach, making them feel like they're in control. The worst scenario is we present a price and it's the only price and we don't know what they're currently paying or they did pay on their vehicle before. And I don't think you want to, in fact, I'm not even going to say the thing. I would not encourage you to ask them what they want their budget to be, because just like asking them what they want for their trade-in, they're going to fudge it and pack it and add more to it just to make sure that they're trying to keep you honest and give them the best possible deal. They may know what their vehicle is worth from another dealer, but if you ask them what they want for it, you know full well they're going to add 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and then negotiate with you, right? The most basic form of negotiation is start high and come down. You can't go low and then climb it back up. So I think I did answer that question. Money down, extend the term, lease versus finance. What is the best way for you to go? And then, Mark, I would move into trim level down. I would then move to model down. And again, giving them all of these choices so that they have decisions to be able to make. And then they will feel in control. And then they won't feel so much a necessity to go to the next less expensive model. Even if there's nothing you can do to sell it right now, they have so much information that they go to someone else and they don't get the answer that they want. They're coming back to you because you were so candid, so open, so transparent about it. Look, this is how you can get it. This is how you can get it. This is how you can go for it. This is how we can make it affordable. And again, it's math. Here's the reality. In 2020, automobiles went up by more than 20%. In 2021, automobiles went up again by 23%. We don't have the statistic in for 2022 and definitely don't have it in for 2023, but I think we're going to find there has been a price increase along there as well. This is just the cost of raw materials and the technology. And again, it goes back to if you haven't done the selective walk around presentation on the vehicle that they would like to own, and you haven't built that value bridge, creating the pain of what their old vehicle can't do to what the new one will do, then you don't have the desire to want to move forward. And now they're just going through an exercise of taking your price and moving on. Getting this one from Alex. How can we generate more leads with less effort? Great question, Alex. Thank you. Obviously, media is going to help your best effort there. But the problem with media and media in general, either organic media, such as social media, and you just posting, I've got this vehicle. The most effective place, if you are chasing down just general leads, people that you don't know, you don't have a reputation with, the best place that I can recommend that you post would be Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, that is, and Kijiji. These are the two of the easiest that aren't going to charge you very much. Marketplace isn't going to charge you anything at all. Kijiji, because you're a business, you are going to have to pay for those ads to be placed. And of course, second to that would be AutoTrader. Those are the customers that are surfing and perusing and drifting through their feed. I would encourage you now to use Marketplace over anything at all, because Facebook will geofence your particular area. You're not going to get those long distance calls from Ottawa and from Windsor and from Sault Ste. Marie that could happen with an AutoTrader or a Kijiji placement, even though they tell us that they try to keep it in our region. Facebook does a much better job because surveying their clients about the user experience with Marketplace, they don't want to be driving to Windsor to get a pair of winter riding boots for fat bike riding that were $200 boots and selling for $50 now, and they've only been worn 3 times. I don't want to drive from Aurelia to Windsor, even though that's a magnificent savings. I could get them shipped, but in some cases, many cases, that individual doesn't know anything about it, doesn't trust the fact that the e-transfer will go through, doesn't want to use COD. And this is what Facebook, I've got to give them kudos and pat them on the back so well for. They do such a magnificent job of being concerned about the user experience. I don't believe that the other platforms do so. So, Marketplace, magnificent. What I'm finding with most of you, Marketplace does extremely well with your as-is vehicles because that user is really looking for a bargain. That doesn't mean that you can't promote your brand new products on there as well. And it doesn't mean that in your own feed that you can't do a walk-around present, and a really brief, a 2-minute walk-around, highlighting things about a vehicle that I can't necessarily find as a buyer easily on the internet. So what I've just shared with you is the worst case scenario and the most difficult one of the entire bunch to do. The easiest and the best closing rate and the one that produces the highest gross profit for you, which is again the easiest, is working your portfolio. So your portfolio of repeat customers and referral customers, not to mention your own network, and of course, as we're all fully aware, service department upgrades is my absolute favorite, unquestionably, to the point where I have had a number of you, Jen Scherters, a participant in the program as well, she just will not take walk-in traffic, cold traffic. She calls it cold traffic. Jen, it's not cold traffic. Anybody calling us on the phone, emailing in, or walking in the showroom is a hot lead. Like they're an amazing lead. But in her opinion, they're cold because she doesn't have the know, like, and trust badge of honor with them. And I would include, to some extent, the service department upgrades. And that's why, as great as the service department upgrades are, we feel like we're putting a lot of effort and work into it, and they don't materialize. And that's because the client has not initiated the transformation. And this is the hurdle that you have to do. What you're doing with repeat referral and your network is you're creating the thinking, talking, research, touch and feel, and now here to buy the car. And you're expressing that through in a very short order. Now, you can do that because of the fact you have the know, like, and trust badge of honor. So the easiest way for you to get leads, that's what we're talking about here, is with traffic that you control. And the traffic that you control is repeats, getting that second car in the driveway, getting the third car in the driveway, getting the fourth car in the driveway. And the only way that you will know they have a second, third, or fourth car in the driveway is communication. Having a congruent communication with every single one of your favorite customers. Don't do it with all your customers. Now, if you've been in the business for three months, if you've been in the business for 6 months or less, let's call it that, then you need to have a very robust, and you should, just to fill your day, want to be calling all your customers quite frequently just to find out, how the vehicle is operating. Are they perfectly happy with our service department? Did the first oil change go well? And in that communication, in that communication event, I don't mean to be so formal about it, but that's exactly what it is. You can find out what is the second vehicle, third vehicle, fourth vehicle in the driveway. If you know they are a very affluent customer and you have a very special automobile, a two-door, a sports car, a collectible, and Demons, Hellcats, Vipers, Corvettes, Mustang, all of which are transitioning to a fully electric platform. We saw the electric Corvette yesterday. We saw the prototype of the electric Charger or Challenger. It looks fantastic. I think it's just an amazing concept, and it looks pre-production. Like this wasn't a clay mold, but we couldn't get to it. You couldn't open the doors. You couldn't really see what the dash would be like. However, there's a lot of people that are not fond of the electric concept and would like to have those last ones of the gas ones, and then of course the ones that can't afford them. Anyhow, the point is, in order to fill your pipeline, that's what we're talking about, finding customers that can afford to do so. I've made that suggestion to all of us before, and some of you do it really well. 6 month plus a day club, right? For Canadians, for all of us that are in Canada here, and the ability to take back some of the product that is very desirable in the United States as a pre-owned, you just need 1 day past 6 months not to get in hot water with the manufacturer. And I think that's respectable. So go through your portfolio and create your hot list of 6 months plus a day. Go through your portfolio, hot list of people that could afford those special vehicles that you have in inventory. Go through another hot list of 10 customers that have been shopping. And your hot list of 10 customers changes daily. So you have to be brutally honest with yourself. And quite frankly, I'll be candid with you, I didn't do this very well. And when I was selling, and remember, I still have an independent used vehicle lot, and I go in and I sell at it. We're closed right now during the winter, but it's going to fire back up in a month's time. I don't do a good job of filtering through my 10 hot leads. What I do is I keep adding to the list and adding to the list. And I think, oh, this is better. This is better. This is a full pipeline. I've got more people in the pipeline, but you don't. Because you don't put the right amount of emphasis and work on the ones that are really in market. And I believe that of the 10 hot leads on your list, only 5 or 4 or 3 are really in market. 5, 6, 7 of them on your 10 hot leads are close. But if a fantastic deal came along that they discovered on Marketplace, and you can see new vehicles on Marketplace, good golly, I saw a Boston Whaler offered by Gordon Bay Marine after the boat show for $400,000 on Marketplace. I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, who is looking for a boat like that on Marketplace? When most of the stuff are aluminum boats and small boats and 30 and 40-year-old boats. But you know what? Somebody could receive that in their feed if they did like I did, typed in Boston Whaler, because I'd like to replace my Boston Whaler, and I'm not looking for a 30-foot twin engine, 400 horsepower, total of 800 horsepower outboards on the back of that. But because Facebook knows I like Boston Whaler, I could get that picture, and I may be in the marketplace for that. Who knows? The point is, when you're trying to fill your pipeline, you want to pull as many levers as you possibly can. The reason why we're trying to fill this pipeline is that the traffic that you don't control, showroom, phone in, email in, that's everything in the dealership. That's driven by advertising. And we've talked about that extensively before. And those of us that rely on the advertising machine to fill our pipeline, that's the challenge that you will experience. Dive into Marketplace, put your as-is vehicles on Marketplace. You'll immediately see success. It's fantastic. From that individual who purchases your as-is vehicles because they're inexpensive, captivates attention, makes the phone ring, you get to test your mettle and your skills, negotiating and closing. This will bolster your confidence, and you can say to them, what's the second or third vehicle in the family? Or this will boost your confidence that the media that you do, does in fact work. I hope that helps you, Alex. I would dive into that repeat and referral. And the second part of the equation is make sure you're leveraging artificial intelligence with ChatGPT to formulate several sequenced emails. Not, hey, do you want to buy it? Here's another email. Hey, do you want to buy it? Hey, it's still available. Do you want to buy it? That is not helpful. Texting. Don't hesitate to do it on a threefold basis as well when you're trying to follow up with clients. SMS, phone call, email. Do them all. The email is extremely long, hardly gets open, but you can deliver a lot of information. And more importantly, you can shoot a video and attach that to it. So email is robust in its capacity to sell. It's magnificent. Telephone conversation is terrific, but it is auditory. So if your client is auditorily stimulated, you can have a wonderful opportunity to be able to sell them. However, with email, they're visual, and of course, if you have a video, now it's visual and auditory. And of course, if they're responding to you because you didn't give away all the information, now it's kinesthetic. They're typing on the keyboard. That's the perfect world. On the other side of the equation, an SMS text is really one-dimensional, extremely brief, and you utilize SMS to say, I sent you an email. Let me know what you think. Bam, that's it. Quick, fast, easy, so that they don't block your number and not accept your text. Even when they're ghosting you on voicemail and on email, keep your text brief so you don't abuse that freedom and luxury that they gave you of that cell phone. And then, of course, that's what fills your pipeline, by keeping in touch with them, maintaining communication. I hope I answered your question. Thanks, Alex. I like that thumbs up. Rebecca, a lot of dealers are sitting with inventory and product on the lot, and they're nervous. They're starting to give away and blow out. This is just a couple of points over cost. Yikes. That isn't fun. And I'm hearing this with a number of domestic automobile dealers too. How we handle these questions when people ask for the same price. Excellent. And how do you create the reason to buy? Great questions. Fantastic. Okay, number one, we are in a recession. Now, the recession isn't that significant. Certainly wasn't as it has not been, pardon me, as impactful as what the economists had alerted us to. I think there was a lot of fear mongering going on, and maybe even, in fact, think about this. I think there were a lot of very, very wealthy people, fund managers specifically, Bay Street kind of people, New York Stock Exchange kind of people that were really hoping that we would go through a significant, a very scary kind of economic recession. Only because those well capitalized individuals are looking to do the most fundamental opportunity for themselves: buy low, sell high. So we'll sell off right now and then sit on our capital, waiting for everything to crash, and then sweep in, be the knight in shining armor. And consequently, we didn't experience that. So yes, I do believe that we will have automobile dealers, recreation vehicle dealers. I'm hearing it in the marine world, especially in the six-figure boats that are significantly impacted by the luxury tax. And if you sell automobiles that are subject to the luxury tax as well, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about here. The number of individuals just out of principal alone do not want to pay that 10%. And the government did an excellent job as well of making sure there is zero loophole for people to be able to escape that. So everybody, and I'm talking everybody, you know who I'm talking about, everybody in the country is subject to the luxury tax. So that being said, it doesn't affect really where most of us are selling below the threshold of the luxury tax. But we've got a number of dealers, RV included and powersport included, where, yeah, especially in the powersport world, where we're not experiencing the traditional Canadian weather, and this is happening in the northern US as well, where product is sitting on the ground. And how do you sell it? Worse than that, when somebody advertises on Marketplace, and that's the lion's share of where that's happening, Gigi secondly, Auto Trader as another, or just putting a sign at the end of the road, how do we compete with those low prices? Well, number one, it goes back to the suggestion that I addressed Mark's question with earlier. Do we really know that this client would consider the exact same vehicle somewhere else for significantly less money? Are we really certain that that is what is happening to us? Because I think we all know the answer to that. So that's my easiest answer, but that doesn't really help you. The other part of the equation is when we're talking to these customers that maybe we have to do in negotiation, I call it the classic takeaway, and that's take our deal away from them. You know, they're reaching out to us, and it always intrigued me when somebody even calls in on our used car lot and says, look, I can buy this vehicle for less down the road. Now, from an owner's perspective, it's a lot easier for me to do this than it probably is for you, and your managers probably would not like to see you do this. Your owner probably would not like to see you do it because they don't really understand what is happening. When I get that question, I say to them, then why are you here? Now, I don't say it to be combative, rude, and obnoxious. So I'm very, very careful with my tonality. I'm very, very careful with my body language. I make sure that I'm facing them and looking them in the eye, and I give them that sympathetic look. You know, then why are you here? And they're like, well, I just want to see if you could do any better. And then I'll follow that up with and put words in their mouth with, that's because you like me better. It's a statement, it's a question, isn't it? It's a rhetorical question. I know the answer. If they could get it for less down the road, and let's be candid, this isn't 1990 where we ripped the sticker sheets off automobiles and they couldn't see how much they cost. And we're proudly displaying that electronically in the digital world, not to mention right in the showroom. When they can see that they're going to have to spend more to deal with you, why are they still here? Where you buy and whom you buy from is actually more important than what you buy. The sweet taste of victory of getting a really, really cheap, great deal becomes forgotten when the bitter taste of reality sets in to poor customer service. Maybe you want to walk them through the service department and tour them through the dealership as though they're taking delivery of the vehicle, and even leverage some customer testimonials. One of the things that we do really poorly, in my opinion, in all automotive retail, including powersport for that much, is share with our clients our testimonials. This is an excellent way, Alex, for you to capitalize on filling your pipeline as well, that when you are looking for content to promote on your social feeds, another great customer satisfaction score. And if you've got a ton of this material, you could start right now today going forward by dripping that content out. Onesies, twosies every single week. Now, here's the answer to your question, Rebecca. With respect to that great deal, let's assume the great deal is miles away. It's not just down the road. It is a long way away. And again, that's the worst case scenario, right? We can call the dealer and ask them, are you really selling this vehicle for that much? They're going to see on their call display it's us. Not to mention, they may even recognize your name, and they may know who you are, because regardless of whether it's the powersport industry or the automotive industry, it's a small family. We get to see people at functions like the auto show, like the powersport show, like product knowledge sessions, where we all get together as those become more popular. And this is convention and show time of the year, and it's more popular than I've ever seen it at any other time. So we're completely over the pandemic. But the customer that wants to go down the road has a better deal down the road, and it's a long way down the road that we can't verify and prove it. I don't want to suggest that they're lying to you, but it doesn't hurt for them to tell a little white lie that they can do better to make sure that you are doing the very best for them. And you may want to take the deal away from them. And this is what I mean by the classic takeaway, is that if it really is a better deal, if it really is something that we cannot compete with, then you may, in a very casual, sympathetic tone, suggest to them that that's a really good deal, and that I cannot match that. That's honest, open, and transparent, which is fantastic. What's the point of you giving away your product if you really don't have to? If you know that other dealer well, you could be saying to yourself, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. That's not the kind of dealer that would do that. If on the other side of the equation, you do know that a dealer does it on a regular basis and they intentionally attempt to undercut you and infiltrate your market and sell out of their market, well, maybe you let one or two of your customers go and experience some bad service, and then share this with them. Say, what you may have to do, keep this in mind. I will not compete with that. Don't say you can't compete with it. That just closes the door. But you just say, I will not compete with that. You may have to go there. And if you find out that that selling price isn't the out the door over the curb price, and you feel that salesperson, that other dealer, possibly stretch the truth. Nothing distorts the truth more than stretching it. Stretch the truth a little bit, that here's a great deal, but now you need to pay for freight, or now you need to pay for PDI, or now you need to pay for the manufacturer's appreciation fee, or now you need to get the winter safety package. All of which constitute gross profit, all of which raises the price, all of which could frustrate and aggravate you. And if you find that that is the case, then come on back to me. But if you can buy it for those kind of dollars, then I will not compete with that. And don't be surprised if your client goes away and thinks about it. And our first reaction is to suggest you're going to drive miles, spend hours of your time putting mileage and utilizing fuel and having lunch. For some people, this is an outing. It really is not an inconvenience. If their vehicle is company owned, they're using the company credit card for fuel and they're putting mileage on the company vehicle anyhow. And it gives them a chance to see the countryside and drive. So that isn't a detriment. But where you can cast the doubt, leveraging fear that, yeah, it's really not the deal that I'm going to get, and you can create the pain, don't hesitate to come back to me. Don't hesitate to walk away from them. Don't hesitate to not give them a chance to earn your hard-earned business and come back and see me. Maybe just enough for them sleeping on it to wake up in the morning and go, I know I can save $3,000 purchasing this snowmobile, purchasing this pickup truck, purchasing this side-by-side. I don't think they can save $3,000 on an ATV. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a significant savings. I mean, that's better in my pocket than it is in yours. If I saw 3 pink ones, by the way, pink $1,000 bills used to be pink. They're not in circulation anymore. So if you get a chance to see one, that's fantastic. I do have a friend that actually collects them. I get a charge out of that. So he asked the bank to call him when they've got one. He goes in and buys it. And yeah, I guess he thinks it's going to be worth more than $1,000 at some point. But if you saw 3 pink ones lying on the ground, you'd pick them up. I would too. But the sweet victory of a lower price is very quickly forgotten, not long forgotten, very quickly forgotten when the bitter taste of poor customer service really sets in. And you can use that adage as well and share that with people. I would share with them what all is involved with your deal, and out the door, on the road, over the curb. At this point, you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by giving them your rock bottom, etched in stone. This is the very best you can do. And here's the other thing. And this goes for everybody in the room. Do not waver on that when they come back. Get comfortable saying no. That's what step number 6 is all about. Mastering negotiation. It's not about tricky talk tracks and convincing people to do things that they don't want to do by leveraging, some wild, magical negotiation tactic rolled up into a strategy. Negotiation is about getting what you want when someone else has or controls something that you want. And when they have or control something that you want, in order for you to get it, they're going to make requests. And you just need to get comfortable saying no so that you win every negotiation on your terms. When it comes to cheap prices from other dealers, I don't think it hurts for you to do a little bit of research to verify that, yeah, they are actually advertising it for that. And then you can reassess and compromise in your situation, which is all part of step number 6. I would drive everybody to that step number 6 of the manifesto to review that over and over again, especially as we go forward into the second quarter of the year when the showroom doors start swinging and there's more negotiation going on. Reassess and compromise that maybe it would be a good idea for us to gain a customer in our marketplace, because that could turn into 2 or 3 more sales, especially if that product, I've got to think of a snowmobile this time of the year when snow check is right around the corner and people are thinking about their next new snowmobile of 2025. Maybe it would be worthwhile to accept a less than ideal deal with the intention of this could turn into other products. The very same thing goes for automobiles. It sucks to sell a vehicle for cost or below cost and get paid a minimum commission, because the same amount of work goes into selling and delivering and following up. But if you approach that deal from the perspective, okay, I'll do this, and I would say this to a client when I've done it regularly, when the client's taking deliver the vehicle, before they even take delivery of the vehicle, when I'm inking the deal, when we're padding it right there with them, say, I'll do this deal on one condition. They go, okay, what's the condition? You give me 2 leads, hot leads, not just 2 leads, not somebody at work and a neighbor down the road that you don't like. I'm talking about 2 legitimate, good leads. These are people that are driving 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old vehicles that you know well, that you will share with them the experience that you got from me. That's what I would do in order to fill my pipeline, accepting a bad deal because another dealer has suggested this is what we can sell it for. All things being equal, they can actually buy that comparable vehicle. Remember, the client is not going to tell us that, yes, it's a 2023, worst case scenario, 2023, exact same model, exact same trim level, but it's a demo. It's got mileage on it. It's a factory exec. It's a press vehicle. They're not going to come out and tell you that. What they want to see is if you can sell that vehicle that has a reason to be sold for less for the same price of what they can buy a brand new one. Really, at the end of the day, this is why I believe that they're talking to you. That the one that they can buy isn't, in fact, apples to apples. Did that answer your question, Rebecca? I hope I did. So you could share with them payments. You could show them biweekly. I believe that you could even have this advantage when they say, look, I can buy it for a lot less down the road. And this goes for automobiles too. Say, well, if you could have it right now this afternoon, would that be enough to help you make your decision? You could be riding it this afternoon. You could be driving it today. You could be moving into it this weekend as opposed to making an agreement now and then picking it up on Monday or picking it up next Friday. If we could have it ready for you right now, would that be enough to convince you that I am the salesperson that you would like to say, I am your salesperson? You know, let's face it, you're not going to go back and see them again. Anyhow, that's off the top of my head. My very best hard answer would be to not believe that it's apples to apples. Secondly, tout and really blow your own horn why you're the person to deal with. Show them the family that they're buying into. Leverage the desire and the emotion of getting it right now. Is that all more worthwhile? What about delivery? Right? Maybe if they purchase it from you and you say, I'll put it in your driveway today, tomorrow, Saturday. Would that be enough to convince you that I'm the better choice than them going down the road? Don't be surprised if they say, well, let me think about it. I'm not really sure. They can't say yes at that moment in time because they need to save face. And so they go away and they think about it, and they really do. And they probably talk it over with their spouse or their best friend or whoever the confidant is that's helping them make this decision. And that was the second step of the buyer transformation. And that individual says, yeah, you know what, they're right. To drive 4 hours to go and buy a snowmobile and save $1,000, to drive 4 hours to go and buy a truck, new or used, or a Jeep and save $2,000. Is it really worth our time? And what if we get there and it's not what they say it is? What if there's damage? What if it's not clean? And what if we get we drive the 4 hours and they say, yeah, come back and pick it up next Friday. Now we got another 8-hour drive. And when you add up all of that frustration, nuisance, and aggravation, and it may not accumulate to a $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 discount. It may not add up to that. Their time may not be worth that much. The gas and the depreciation of the vehicle may not add up to that. But your attractive character is what really sells the product. The client's sold on the product. They're going to buy what you've got. Your greatest competition is the next closest dealer. But for now, they're sold on you. Wow, that's it. We are over time. My apologies. I see that we dropped a couple out. That's perfectly fine. I just want to make sure I addressed all the questions. If nobody has another question, well, great. Thank you so much. I'm going to let you get on with your day. The recording for this session will be available by noon tomorrow. I hope you're really enjoying it. We're going to do this every single month. And of course, you don't have to wait until the end of March in order to do so. By the way, no class next week because the 29th is the last day of the month, a Thursday. So I would never encroach on your month end, even though it is February. It's probably the best month for us to do so, but I will not do that. Make the best of this month. If you're wondering how to get to those double digits before the end of the month, remember, it's only the 22nd today. There is lots of time to be able to get into double digits. Book a one-on-one with me. Let's go through it, just as Chandler did. He sold a vehicle yesterday right after we did the coaching, and he got 6 referrals. I will be posting that in the private members group as a win, and any way that I can help you, book that one-on-one. Have a great day. I'll talk to you again real soon. Have a fantastic weekend. Get down to the auto show. See what those competitive offerings are so that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt you don't have competition with the particular product that you're selling.